Hello, my name is Matthew Parker, and today I will be giving an informative speech on just how safe general aviation is. Not many people can say that they fly in their free time or go for a flight on a weekend, but I can tell you that that's what I do, and it's one of the safest ways of traveling nowadays. But that might not be what you're thinking because of what the media said or what the government's done, but I'm here to prove with statistics that this is a true statement. Headlines everywhere saying airplane missing, small plane crashes, no survivors. It's stuff like this in the news that strikes fear in everyone in today's society. A lot of people think that flying is not safe at all, and half of the people out there don't even want to get on a plane to go fly. And putting that into retrospect, people thinking that going from a commercial flight to a small four-seater plane, no, not in their lifetime. The thing is with technology over time, small planes and big planes alike, they're the safest things to travel in. They're fast, efficient, and affordable. When we look at the statistics about how many people die in plane crashes a year, in 2012 there was only 341 deaths in commercial aviation. For 1 million flight hours, there was only 22 deaths for general aviation. Now we look at driving vehicles and motorcycles, and there was over 40,000 deaths in the United States alone. That tells you something. People don't hear about all those crashes though in the motorcycles or cars because that's something that's normal and day to day. But when a plane crashes, it's almost like the end of the world. That's because the media tries to pull out as much as it can from a situation. Recently there was an SR-22, which is a small four-seater airplane that was flying from California to Hawaii on a ferry flight. Well, it ran out of fuel about 3 hours before its destination, Maui, and it had to pull a parachute that was deployed, and the airplane landed in the sea, and within 30 minutes a cruise ship picked up the pilot and there was no incident at all. He walked away without a scratch or bruise on him. But see, they always focus on the negatives and rarely the positives. So I guess it's a highlight that they were showing this in the news, but in the long run, it's all about the deaths and how dangerous it is. The government has put a lot of regulations on flying. To be a commercial pilot, to fly for like Southwest or American Airlines, it requires 1,500 hours of flight time. Now that's a lot of flying experience, and a lot of that for most of the pilots is general aviation. But with the way things are going, not many people are getting into general aviation because of how afraid they are of flying. With this in mind, the aviation industry is kind of slowly dying and fading, and it shouldn't be because it's one of the safest things out there. The technology that's used in some of the big airplanes, from the black box to the ELT, which is emergency locating transponder, it tells the exact destination of where the airplane is, the last altitude it had, the coordinates to where it is so that they can send out a search and rescue mission so that the pilots and the passengers can be saved, and this is also in the small airplanes. Now, there's also computers that are on the commercial airplanes that give the altitudes, the amount of thrust that the engines are providing, just so that they know exactly what's going on with the airplane. With this technology in the airplanes already, people don't think that this is enough, and that's because they're uninformed about this kind of stuff, and it's because what they see in the media about, oh, how can an airplane go missing in the middle of an ocean? Well, the thing is these airplanes didn't just go missing. They were last seen with the ELTs on, and the ocean's a huge, vast area, so the plane is somewhere in there, and the ELT did give a last location. But the weather phenomenons that occur are some of the just small things in the commercial and general aviation that leads to crashes. A lot of the time, it's pilot error, and this is because people in general aviation aren't required that 1,500 hour regulation, because anyone who can go get a medical certificate can go out and fly. And when people get their license, they feel complacent and they don't know the aircraft as well as they should. And when this occurs, a lot of accidents happen. Almost 80% of crashes are pilot error, and 20% of those are the other 20% are mechanical or weather phenomenon. So it's pretty interesting seeing that aspect of it, and it's not something that the media really tells you because it wouldn't sell the story like it does the way they have it. The bad thing about people not knowing about the technology in the airplanes is that the FAA, which is the Federal Aviation Administration, wants to upgrade the technology in both the commercial and general aviation. Now, it's not a bad thing, but the bad thing is the way they want to do it. They're expecting people who fly general aviation, like my father and I, to spend $15,000 on upgrading equipment in our airplane. And for a lot of the people in general aviation, it's just a hobby and they don't make any money off of it. And I can tell you that a lot of them aren't the 1% like the people in the commercial aviation world are. With that in mind, there's also companies such as AOPA and EAA, which is the Experimental Aircraft Association, which are trying to put out new technology and new devices that would make that $15,000 into $1,500, and that would save a lot of people time and money, because this guideline that the government, the FAA, is trying to push needs to be done by 2016, and that's not a lot of time to upgrade almost every single plane that's flyable, because there's hundreds of thousands of planes that fly a day. So the only bad thing is that it costs a lot of money and it's time consuming. But like I said, there's the small companies that are trying to help the general aviation by creating easier ways to go about it and cheaper ways to go about it. In the end, flying in general is something that's super safe. Anyone can go out and learn to fly, and anyone can be safe while flying. It's the idea of not being complacent in the cockpit and knowing what's going on. The technology's out there, the information's out there, it's just how you use it. When we look at this in the end, general aviation is one of the safest things out there. People have lots of different hobbies, but they're not as safe as flying. People can go cross-country day to day for work, for fun, or just for whatever reason that they have, and be safer in the airplane than they are in a car. That tells you a lot about how the media can portray things and make things seem totally different than the way they are. And I hope with this information that you learned today, it gives you a better understanding how general aviation is one of the safest hobbies out there. Are there any questions?